from all around the world. I would like to introduce today to our presenters from Lithuania and Czech Republic. We have Professor Lenka Felsmanova. She's graduate, I'm going to read, of course. She's graduated with a master's degree and obtained a PhD degree in special education at the Charles University in Prague. She works as an assistant professor at the Department of Special Education at Faculty of Education, Charles University. She teaches subjects aimed at special education assessment and counseling, inclusive education and support for the education of children and people with specific learning and behavior disorders. She also teaches lifelong learning programs for teachers and coordinates Erasmus Plus mobility program. She is a co-founder and vice chairwoman at the Czech Society of Inclusive Education that promotes inclusive education and support of vulnerable children in the Czech education system. One of the current projects is aimed at piloting PBIS in the Czech Republic. She worked at the Ministry of Education and Government Agency for Social Inclusion. And another presenter from Czech Republic, hi Lenka.
Hi everybody.
Is Anna Kubichkova. Anna has graduated with a master's degree in special education from Charles University in Prague, where she continues to study in a doctoral program. In 2019, she completed a two months internship in Chicago, Illinois, United States, where she attended PBIS coaches training and boosters provided by Midwest PBS Network and attend the National PBS Forum. In 2020, she completed in 2 months internship in Vancouver, Canada, where she established connection with experts implementing PBS in local schools. She currently works in NGO named Czech Society for Inclusive Education as a member and of an expert team and coordinator of a School Helps Vulnerable Children project, which is aiming to pilot and disseminate PBS in Czech Republic. And we have two presenters, Anna.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And we have two presenters from Lithuania. This is Gintarė Šatė. She is the head of counseling division for children with developmental disabilities. She has a degree in social and special education. She is studying for a master's degree in education management, and she is she's a person who helps us to implement first steps of PBS in Lithuania. I'm going to talk about more today. And myself, my name is Renata Grimaitė, and I have also a master's degree in education management from Kaunas University and a master's degree in special education from Oklahoma Central University. I work in school, special mainstream school where we teach a lot of students with disabilities. And I'm also a PBS Europe Network board member. So I would like to start first Lithuania and Gintarė. Are you ready?
Yes, sure. Do you see our slides?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Good. So today, me and Renata wants to share with you our little research, what we have done, and our first steps of implementation of PBS in Lithuania. So very shortly about us, we are working in counseling division for children with development disorders, and mostly of time we're consulting teachers all over Lithuania who is working with autistic students. And what problems we faced when we started our consultations, that our teachers in Lithuania still don't have enough competencies to work with behavior problems. Also, our schools don't have a single strategy how to deal with inappropriate behavior, and the teachers don't know what procedures and strategies they should use for behavior, like positive strategies. And because of all these problems, it's really hard in our education system to support autistic students and students with other disabilities. That's why we decided to do the first steps for implementing PBS in our schools. And we did a little research, which aim was to determine systems and practical solutions used at schools that promote positive student behavior. And we did a qualitative document analysis. So we were looking for schools in which documents we could find positive behavior system or positive behavior rules. And my colleague Renata will tell you about our findings. And when we start our analysis, we were trying to answer these 5 questions. And yeah, maybe Renata will tell you more what was the conclusions. Yeah, Renata?
Yes, I'm ready. So basically, we looked at the 3, then we went over the documents that our school administration and every school has to have on the records. We looked at the 3 main guidance. So the first one, guidance on student attendance, counting and absence prevention. Another was a guidance on implementing measures and intervention for prevention of violence and bullying. And the third one was guidance of applying impact measures for students exhibiting inappropriate behavior. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this one guidance. So what we found that basic 2 categories. One of the supportive steps and methods, and another disciplinary steps of methods. And in a supportive step and methods category, we found 2 subcategories, like, for example, personal conversation with the students and parents, and student praise for every achievement. So basically, we found those steps that aligns to our idea to how schools provide support in a positive way for children. We also found that disciplinary steps in the schools is a prevailing method for deal with behavior problems, especially, I mean, using those disciplinary steps. And here in the PowerPoint presentation, you can see there are many steps how to deal with children who misbehave, starting from pre-verbal notice per lesson till the student who will be suggested to the student who will be suggested for him to change the school. We also find that those disciplinary systems are very well organized, and they are basic for the majority of schools that we looked at, 7 schools. So basically those disciplinary systems, they you can find in each of the schools. And again, schools apply those tiered discipline systems, and actually it starts from conversation with students and can reach the students to be expelled from the school, right? So, but again, what our findings are telling us that those disciplinary systems are very well organized and common in schools that we did document analysis on. You can go here. We also find out that our schools has a way to support and motivate students. We found out the motivating systems that the school documents reflect clearly indicated the motivating systems for students. Then they correspond then to the following criteria, all right? One category to motivating, and we have some subcategories. So for being active, all right, for academic achievements, for good behavior, for good attendance. So we were missing here, of course, more more support and systems for students who has problems with behavior. So we were missing and think that this area has to be changed in the future. Gennady can go. Of course, we found a variety of forms for motivation, and schools use different type of variety of motivational measures, and from verbal plays, inscription in electronic diary, to like different type of nominations, titles, and publicity. That actually, again, very well organize a school, but we, again, as I mentioned earlier, we miss support for students who not big achievers, who needs that additional support. And especially we missed here information how to support our children with disabilities, and looking for additional support systems for children with autism spectrum. We came with some conclusion that schools organize work related to inappropriate behavior of students based on different guidance documents, which are often unrelated. So basically, too many guidance, too many regulations, too much focus on behavior, and that is already going under category not is going under different category, not how to support children, but how to kind of punish children. Of course, the guidance reflects on distribution of function among school staff. The predominant type of activity planning addresses dealing with consequences. Disciplinary systems are clearly defined. Again, if we go over all documents, we will see that basically classroom teacher is mainly in charge for behavior problems. Sometimes school psychologist or social worker. We also found that easily predictable systems are used for documenting students' attendance and appropriate behavior. So we have very good systems to work on attendance. We also have very well approved, organized motivational system and procedures for students with some academic achievements. And schools apply fragmented support for students with behavior issues. And basically all strategic plans for schools have fragmented measures and conventions for work then with inappropriate behavior of students. So basically, we're talking about the huge desire and need for change in the area of creating positive practices for students with behavior problems.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna finish our short presentation. We want to like solve these problems, try to solve these problems, and we decided to do a pilot project this year, which aim is to promote the inclusion of autistic children by changing the attitude of the school community and methods of work intended to promote positive behavior. And at the moment, we have 7 schools in this project, I'm really happy. They are like motivated and active, and they already had 3 training sessions. They are participating in this conference, and we are planning to organize a lot of trainings and workshops for them. And also 4 of us, 4 of our counseling center specialists are taking the PBIS coach training program. So I hope that in a few years we could share with PBIS community great practices that what we saw yesterday on virtual school tours. So yeah, I really hope that it will be successful, and this is our contacts if anybody needs. It's okay. Yeah. So, and I'm finishing. Thank you very much, and we're waiting for questions in the end, I think, of the session. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Gintare,
for your
Renata.
Thank you, Gintare, to Rinke. Yes.
Thank you. And Lenka will start the presentation from our side. If you have any questions, again, you can type them in the chat. And I can just say it's really interesting and informative if we see some other country going through similar process as we are, because we are practically at the same level just now. And you will hear more about this in a second.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen, and now I hope you see it. Okay, so so thank you very much for joining us. My name is Lenka Felsmanova, and my colleague is Anna Kubichkova, and we will tell you our story of how we got to PBIS implementation in the Czech Republic. So first, I will briefly talk about our organization. We are an umbrella organization, NGO, that is connecting experts, so people from the universities, but also other NGOs that have a same interest, which is the promotion of inclusive education in our educational system, equal rights, and also mental health. We also have parental initiatives of young people with special needs, and so together we are a big team that is, yeah, as I said, supporting the idea of inclusive education of all children and young people in our educational system. Yeah, our organization was founded by former Deputy Minister of Education. And me, I used to be her colleague at the Ministry of Education at that time. And this pretty much shapes our agenda or what we do. We focus a lot on advocacy in the area of equal rights, equity, and mental health. We prepare expert proposals and recommendation to legislation and national strategic documents and political decision makers. We also do pilots. So PBIS is one of the pilots we are now implementing, but we also we are trying to bring different evidence-based approaches in different areas, and we are trying to support their implementation in the Czech Republic. We are also focused on popularization of good practices, local as well as international. So we are looking for schools with good practices in certain areas and give them space and attention, so people from other schools can learn, and public and media, they cover their stories. We do the networking, as I said. We connect to those who have same interest, and it helps us a lot in advocacy for shared goals. And we provide counseling to schools, parents, young people with disabilities in illegal areas, but also like the support and quality of education. So our journey with PBIS, when it started in 2017. when we organized a study visit for some stakeholders from the Czech Republic to Norway, and by chance we got to the conference with Steve Goodman from Michigan, who was the keynote speaker, and he spoke about PBIS, and we got quite impressed. So we searched for the option and invited Steve to Prague to provide seminars. At that time, we had a training for lectors, about 20 lectors that for the teacher trainers, who it was 2 years coaching program for teacher trainers focused on support of children with challenging behavior. So Steve participated in this training, but he also organized public events, so public seminars where people from schools came in, and for some it really resonated. And we agreed that when the possibility of financing comes, we will try to do the pilot together. And so we decided to implement PBIS in Czech Republic. And first we became members of Association of Positive Behavior Support, the international association. Afterwards, we prepared advocacy materials and we collected data supporting the idea of implementation of this multi-tiered support that is really needed at Czech schools. We made a representative survey among our basic schools, but we also took data that already exist from the Czech School Inspectorate, from the Ministry of Education, and connected them together, explain why we are facing problems that end up with exclusion of children from schools, over medication, placing them to psychiatric departments, and we prepare different types of materials. I think this is very important for the because some of them were very like expert elaborative, but some of them are really simple infographic for general public, to really accessible for parents, so for general public to understand why this is important, what's happening. So these different levels of information provided about the situation in the Czech Republic that was advocating some system change was very important. And because we had this done, we used the data and information we collected, and we got very lucky because at these years, prior 2 years, a new national strategic documents were prepared. It was Strategy 2030 for education. It was also National Action Plan for mental health that was prepared by the Ministry of Health, and also the new strategy for social protection of children that was prepared by the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs. And as an expert organization, we provided recommendation to these strategies. So this topic should be covered, and systemic approach to support of children with challenging behavior should be adopted by the Czech Republic. And it was very successful because all of these documents now contain information and tasks for the different ministries that this is important issue. This is also very big help for further implementation when it comes to financing, because once it's tasked for the ministry, then the ministry has to get money for it. So this is something that's really helped. And because we wanted also to show and prepare everything in the level of school, because this is the most important. So we started with the PBIS pilot at 3 schools. We selected schools with different backgrounds. One of them was very impressed by Steve Goodman's presentation. They really wanted to implement. Their culture was very close to what PBIS is about. So it was like a school that was very close to the implementation. But we also selected schools that were very far. One school, I think the poorest school in our country, I can say, is involved in our project. It's a school in social excluded location in northern Bohemia, where really it's segregated Roma school, where are children from really challenging environments, a lot of children with developmental trauma. exhausted teachers. So everything what you can imagine is at one school. A lot of absences. It's very hard time during the COVID situation, but most of the children are not connected or were not in the spring period connected with the schools. So that's another school, because we wanted to, you know, also for the policymaker to show what improvement can be done at different types of schools, and that we also wanted to see how, you know, how it's gonna have, you know, how to work with all different schools. So it was very important for us to select the schools with the different backgrounds and also different level of readiness for implementation, because this is also something for the coaches very important, to work with. Some schools are really open, some of them are a little bit forced by the administrators, and we have to learn. We have to deal with all the different attitudes. So it was interesting for us also to include it in the pilot. And of course, we have to translate, adjust, and create materials. So of course, we used to what is done, but sometimes it has to be adjusted to Czech legal framework, because, for example, you cannot exclude child from the school as a disciplinary measure. So so there are some minor adjustments we had to make. We also made infographics that again help to understand parents, children, what is PBIS about in Czech language accessible. So that's also part of our mission at this moment. And how is it with financing? At this moment, this pilot at these 3 schools, it's financed from EEA grants. It's Norway, Ireland, and Liechtenstein funds. They have one program focused in inclusion, because we don't, as an organization, we don't grant the EU funds, EU structure funds, because as I said, our founder was former deputy minister of education, and we would believe we are in conflicts of interest because she was preparing the operation program for the EU structure funding. So that's why we are looking for other sources, but this one was available, and it could cover our efforts. And we were thinking about the financing in the future, and that's why we wanted to implement the multi-tiered support to the strategic national documents, because it really increases the chances for financing from EU structure funds for schools who would like to apply and implement, and also from the state budget, because it's, as I said, it's now the task for the ministries to support the implementation. So we were seeking the system support that could help in the future for those schools who would like to implement. And of course, we are ready to present the outcomes from the pilot to Ministry of Education, but also other ministries, because with the children, support of children, the challenging behavior is really it's a topic that it's sectional. So it's many ministries are involved in it. Ministry of Health, as I said, the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs. But we believe that schools can do a lot, or they do the major job, because the teachers spend so much time with children. So they have, from the all professionals, they have the best possibilities to help kids if they provide them environment that is helping them, and that also respect their developmental trauma, etc. And I will pass words to Anna, who will talk where we are in the implementation at the moment. So thank you very much. And yeah, after Anna's presentation, we can get to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will take just a few minutes, and I will tell you how it actually went with our implementation when we started. And I'm not sure if there is anyone who didn't start implementing PBIS quite yet, but even if you started, it's sometimes interesting to see how did it work for other countries. So before the actual implementation phase in our pilot schools, the biggest volume of our work would be in few points, as you see. First would be the communication with administrators. Our schools knew something about PBIS. Depending on a school, there was one really interested, and they would attend a seminar, so they would already have a great idea about what it is and how much work it is. But some other schools didn't have the actual idea about how much work PBIS could be and how long it takes. So we had to communicate with administrators who would then recommend some members of the former school PBIS team. So we had to pass some information that would be digestible for the future PBIS team members, and they would decide if they're keen on trying this by themselves or if they would recommend somebody else from the faculty. Then we had to plan our initial training, and not only we would have to find great timing, because we decided our training would be 2 days long for the hopefully whole faculty, but the scale was partially optional. We suggested that as many teachers and as many educational assistants should attend the training, but we required 80% of the personnel, which we got on most of the schools. 2 schools had actually close to 100% personnel in the training. And what was really important too was the environment. As we wanted to be close to the schools, we actually did go into the schools, observe their school, how it looks like, if they have any visualizations already of some of their rules. And we also decided we want to provide beverages and snacks and do as much as possible for the teachers, because they are here in their not really free time, but time they could spend on preparing for the school year. This happened in August, the last week before the school start.
Yeah, maybe I will skip in. Yeah, because originally we were not intending to train ourselves. We invited Steve Goodman and Heather George to join, but the COVID situation changed our plan, so they supervised us. So that's why we agreed. Okay, so we will make it nice for the teachers. So we really we paid for the food and the lunch and the snacks and a lot of coffee and sweets. But I'm joking about it. But it was really important for us to make the teachers feel good in the training. And they appreciated it. So the little treat was very helpful at the end.
Definitely, it helps a lot. Then before we skip to the next slide, I would just mention that we are trying to make this PBIS framework attractive for general public, and we are trying to involve some educational journals or local news. And we already had a few articles published, even with some teachers being involved. So it's really nice when they see people are actually interested in what they're doing in their schools. And I'll ask you, Lenka, for the next slide. And I'll just take one more minute and tell you what helped the best when we actually went into the school and tried to tell our teachers about PBIS, because there were some emotions also. Sometimes you would hear arguments such as, why do you bring something from USA if they have so many shootings there and you have to be ready, you have to explain. And what really helped us was to regulate or help the teachers to kind of calm down, relax, regulate first, talk about what happened to them. It was after the first coronavirus restrictions, so they didn't see each other for quite a long time. And while they were talking about the coronavirus and about all the rules coming from different ministries, we were linking this back into how did you feel when you didn't have one rule or few rules that would be really described properly from one authority. How did you feel when they said, okay, it didn't work again, and they never said you're doing a great job? And these things we are always trying to link back to the PBIS, into the
we
unified rules.
Yeah, the bad, we turned the bad to the good, because I think that this uncertainty that people didn't know what's gonna come, how this gonna last, very confusing information from all the different ministries, and the teachers themselves were naming it, that it's so frustrating, that made them very stressful, and so that helped us a lot, make them to realize that this could be the environment at school for kids, the same, many expectation, not consistent, changing in a time, and not predictable environment. And it really helped them to realize that it's a good thing to have something, some unified expectation. So it helped us, but yeah, as Anna said, we had to let people talk, get out the frustration, help them regulate, and then we could start the training. So at each school, it took different time, but there was a lot of frustration, but it helped us, on the other hand, to support the implementation. I'm sorry, Anna, for skipping.
No, that's no problem. I think we should probably move into questions and answers. I was only gonna say about the last point that this is what I've learned in USA. That when the coach comes to the PBIS, they actually model being PBIS. They always get acknowledgement to the teachers, and they, yeah, this is what I always try, like be PBIS. That really helps. Okay, so I think we could jump into the questions and answers.
Thank you, Anna and Lenka. It was very informative. Actually, you did a lot of work already, and we just have kind of talk and discuss and learn from your experience how to avoid mistakes, right? How to make right choices in the process of implementation. We have some questions, so I would like you to ask if you have the answers.
We'll try.
The first question is, how many APBS members do we have, Lenka?
How many APBS members? We as an organization are a member, of APBS. So we are there as an organization. So
as a one member.
We are one member. Yeah.
You join it as organization, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
And the second question was, how many people have been involved in a PBIS implementation process? I think from our team, that would be, we had 3 experts, and the whole organization kind of is involved in a implementation process. And from the school side, we had the whole faculty in the initial training, and then the school PBIS team is 4 members of the school.
We wanted, we had the priorities in selection of those people. They should be, there should be somebody from the management. There should be somebody from the counseling, school counseling services, and one representative of, because in Czech Republic, we don't have primary and secondary school divided. We have a 9 grades. So it's a primary and lower secondary school together. So we wanted to have one representative from the primary and one representative from the secondary, because at the primary level, there is usually one major teacher for the whole class teaching most of the subject. On the secondary, the teachers are changing. So we wanted to have those who are leaders in a teams, or either formal, that they are like the leaders of the teams, or informal, they are influencers within the teams of the teachers from the primary and the lower secondary level. And we found it really important. Of course, it's not 100% in every school. We just took, the motivation was very important. So sometimes, but I think after all, at the most of the school, it's like that. There is somebody from the counseling, somebody from the management, and representing those 2 stages. So that's really important, I think, because thinking about the even though the expectations are same, and it was also the challenge for us, and we were thinking about it with Heather, whether separate the expectation for the younger children and the older ones. But after all, we agreed that we will have united expectation for the whole school, but maybe there would be different ways how to teach the expectation for different groups, and also the appraisal systems could be a little bit different. That's we are planning it now a little bit more, that for the young kids maybe the token systems and other things can work better than for the older one. And we will look, so we will look for the differences in the motivation, in a positive in this positive feedback, but we decided to have united expectations.
I just received a message, but we have a couple more minutes, so we can spend on discussion. I would like to invite people to ask maybe direct questions, not just writing, but because the keynote next presentation will be at 4:15, so we still have time for some discussions. Is there any questions you would like to ask?
Yeah, you can, at this point, you can then unmute and...
We have a question. Yeah, we have a question. So far, do you see differences across the free pilot schools while implementing PBIS? Well,
I think I can start.
Yeah, we can add too. Yep.
I see big differences in what they can actually do from their position, but I think they're same motivated, which was quite. I didn't expect the same motivation from the socially excluded school as the one that really wanted to implement PBIS and seen the seminar and everything. But it's actually beautiful to see the teachers put the visualization, and they're sending us pictures of their school and hallway, and I think the differences are not as big as I would expect. And also we try to follow the needs of the school and be a bit more guided by the school what they feel like they need to implement at this moment. So for the socially excluded school, it was all about making the rules unified for now and teaching the rules, and the other schools already started making other rules for the online teaching. Some schools just say we can't do this, we don't need that. Just now we need to practice more the actual rules there are. I don't know if Lenka want to...
Yes, it's very nice to see that, yeah, the motivation is the same. That's what we were really worried about. But of course, each school is working with the environment and the resources that has. So we have one school that from the very beginning involved parents, and we already had a meeting with parents where we talked together with the PBIS school team about the expectation, and was very nice response from parents saying that, okay, so these are nice expectations, and maybe we could, take them home as well. So it was something that they just from the very beginning wanted, to involve parents, and we will again meet the parents in a couple of weeks. So it will be on a regular basis that we will be meeting with them, and they already decided to have the expectation as a whole year project. So in all subjects, they will just, relate to the expectation. They will have each period dedicated to one expectation, and they will approach it from a different school subjects. So they will really internalize the expectation, and they decided just by themselves. It was nothing that we suggested. They just decided themselves they will do it. They will have it as a whole year project. So sometimes you're just surprised how far the schools are, and intuitively just do things that are recommended. So that's really surprised us nicely. And of course, for this school is from the challenging behavior, they just from the challenging background, they have to respond to the situation they are in. So for them, the key thing is to really to unify in expectation, teach kids these expectations, and that's the maximum for the moment, what they are able to do, because they really struggle now with this distant learning. Plus, many kids don't have any connection, so they go physically to school to grab books and assignments, and they go home. So it's a completely different situation than in the other two schools where there is online education, and one of them also adopted, as Anna said, PBIS expectation for the online education. So it's different, but we are very lucky that the motivation is same at all schools. And I would like to wave to Tosha. Hi, good to see you. Yeah, and the world is really small.
And I would like to add a little bit more about motivation too. Then we decided to implement pilot project. We announced as like competition for schools, and we had almost 40 a lot of schools that would like the address the need of that project, and they would like to participate in that project as active members, but we were not able to accept all of them. So far we have 7 schools. And we don't know them because of COVID, because of the situation. We didn't have opportunity to meet like face and face, and to talk to those people, to go and take a walk in the schools. But so far we gave ourselves just a 1 year of a training, and decided to do step by step, like all small steps, and without not just give yourself like time to understand better what is a PBS, why is PBS it's important, and how it can change our school environments. And I had one more question. If no one wants to ask, I ask one more question about, you mentioned earlier about the help from experts. So when you say an expert, so what do you mean by that? Well, for us, for example, helping right now, PBS Europe Network board members, they are giving us lectures and providing some kind of training. But what in your situation, you say expert, who those experts are?
Yes, for us. Yes, sorry, Anna, maybe you go ahead. Yeah.
From the organization point of view, we cooperate with Steve Goodman, Heather George, and other pronounced PBS experts from abroad. And from our team, we have kind of expert base that are Lenka Feltzmanova, who is a professor at the faculty and have a huge behavior background, and I am a member as a PhD student, also with behavior background, and the internship in Chicago and Vancouver. And Lenka, if you want to introduce the other members.
Yeah, because we talk about like PBIS experts who are supporting it from outside, but we also have the experts in a team who help us with the legislation and everything. So it's like we have a team of people who contribute to the discussion, preparing materials, those statements that help us in the advocacy. So we also cooperate closely with other universities, and so in a close cooperation, we have people who are involved in or experts in behavior analysis. So this is so this is because we are Czech expert society, so that's what is our foundation, that really we connecting those who are experienced in different areas related to vulnerable children support in education, but also in mental health. And they are helping us a lot in the advocacy, and they help us also in the implementation, because they are related to it. But we have a supervision from the US, and we wanted, of course, to, and we are very lucky we could join the coach training here in Europe, because we also wanted to be connected to European network. So that's why we joined, and we are very happy we could join the coach training as well as the conference here. So we have also allies here in Europe.
And the last question, what your advice for countries, young countries who just started implementing the PBS in the schools, basically in the process of implementation? Yeah. What your suggestion would be? What's the main idea? What's the best practices you would give up to those countries like Lithuania? Where is a good point to start? Actually, we already started, but anyway, your advice.
I think Lenka's systemic view would be the best to describe.
Well, I think you start with the research. This is always the foundation. You show on a data that something is needed, and you have to argument it to the policymakers and stakeholders that there is a solution. So you have to so you have to have a foundation based on research and data you have. And I think that's what you started with. I'm sure that if there was not COVID outbreak, that the situation would be different. Of course, the motivation for school, it's hooking all the teachers, and so everything. I think there are much more expertise in other organizations. We have just started, but I think for the very beginning, it's very important to really point the need. To show it on relevant national data. Also explain some of the problems and relate them to the data, which also it's great help if there are experts involved, so they can connect things together, and they can explain to policymakers and also the stakeholders why this is related to this. And if we do not do safe predictable environment, we will be still, solving a problem behavior of children with much more restrictive measures than we could if we had this ready, the environment set up according to the recommendation and evidence-based approaches. That's also, we also always stress that the PBIS is evidence-based. There is a lot of research behind it, and it's really important to tie this information to those who make the decisions about the system. And yes, and also, and not only the policymaker, but also the general public is important to communicate, why and what is delivered. Simple ways. So as I said, infographics, really simple information provided to all the, use media presentation. We before we started to implement, we had a couple of also, articles, videos, whatever, interviews in major Czech medias about the situation and what could help. So it's also like reflecting that there is a problem, like you did in your research, and showing the answers that it's covered by the evidence is extremely important. And if there is a chance to connect the implementation to some of the strategy that is being just prepared in your country, I don't know if you're ready with the strategy for education 2030 yet, or if it's under the process. In some countries it has already been approved by government, but in some of them it's still being prepared in a process. Probably the governments will approve it in December. So ask, search for it and connect to somebody who is influential and can bring in your recommendation. That's very important, and it's really easy. It makes easier the implementation when it's covered in some national strategy. So talk to Ministry of Education or to some allies that are influential within the government that will be able to deliver your recommendations to these national documents, because then it helps a lot.
All right. Thank you very much.
Gosia, wanted to ask something. Yes.
Well, I was just going to add to what you were saying. So Lenka and I actually just happen to be interconnected through some other things, but I do work in PBIS here in the States. And I'll be back if COVID lets me, so I'll be in touch, Lenka. But one thing that I wanted to suggest that has really got a lot of groundwork for us moving forward here in the States, because we have a lot of contextual issues as well, turfism and things like that, really direct teachers and your legislators to the post-school outcomes. So I think what Lenka, you were saying was all of these benefits, but really these things that are put in place at the beginning, so at the primary level, these lead to less incarceration. This leads to less reliance upon government assistance. This leads to better educated students, because if we can get these behaviors under control, then we can lead to better outcomes for all society, which has a bigger impact. And so that's where, and when I met with the ministry in Prague, that was kind of like, oh wow, yeah, this has a big impact as a whole. And so people start to see like, okay, it starts from the ground up, and a lot of it is teaching expectations of maybe home life didn't really allow these expectations to be taught, but we assume they're going to be taught. So teaching them at school really leads them into a better life after school. So that's just.
So you're just saying like it's long life lasting goals, and that school has opportunity to teach kids, especially those who don't have opportunity at home. We're giving them we're supporting the chance to have a better life in the future. That's what PBS about.
Yeah.
Not just, but that's one very important point. Thank you, Asha, very much. Thank you everyone who participated today in this workshop. Thank our presenters, Gintare, Lenka, Anna, and myself too. And thank you everyone who participated today. So we're gonna see you in 15 minutes. You know where to go, where to click on the link to meet another keynote. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank
see
you.
later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
See you.
All right. How do we stop?